Hello, my name is Maja Plüddemann and I'm a double bass player. I live and work in Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm here in front of the place where I work, which is the Gulbenkian Foundation. It's our headquarters, and I play in the Gulbenkian Orchestra. I would like to tell you about the work I've been doing for the last few years, bringing classical orchestral music to school children. My orchestra, the Gulbenkian Orchestra, had already been doing school concerts for quite a few years, and also family concerts on Sundays, and that was going very well. But we got to a point where we felt that we could make an even bigger impact by taking a different approach. So in 2017, the music service, that is our music department within the Gulbenkian Foundation, got together with several of us interested musicians from the orchestra, and we did some brainstorming about what we could do to bring music to children in a more direct way. So we initiated a project called Música nas escolas, which literally means music in the schools. This was just our working title, but we ended up keeping it. So this project involves several schools in the area of Lisbon, and in this project, individual musicians, chamber music groups, and the full orchestra all bring music to the children. I'm really passionate about this work because not only do I love seeing the immediate results, which is children getting really excited about music and about an orchestra, it's also that I view the long-term consequences as really important for the survival of classical music in our society and for the growth of classical music in our society, which I believe is totally possible. So adding classical music played by a live orchestra to children's frame of reference and teaching them to see it as one of the musical genres that exist in their world, not just somewhere far away, but in their world, this plants the seeds that can grow into a real appreciation of music and maybe even a love of music in would-be audiences of the future. The audiences of the future. So, who hasn't looked around a concert hall and thought, oh, all these grey heads, what's going to happen when they're no longer with us? Who will be sitting in those seats? We need younger audiences. Well, is it realistic to think that we'll have concert halls filled with 20-somethings? I don't think so. But I do think it's realistic that concert halls will be filled by 40-somethings, 50-somethings, and 60-somethings, and older, of course, also in the future. But for those people to really gain an interest in music at the stage of their life where they have the time for it, or the means for it, or just wanting to develop different interests, it's much easier if they've had exposure when they were really young to classical music. And that doesn't necessarily mean they needed to have played an instrument. But if they have visited a concert hall, if they have known musicians personally, it makes for a lot of emotional bonds that bring classical music into their world and into their frame of reference. So this is a little bit what we are aiming for in this project. So what does this project actually entail? It works with grades 5 and 6, and the learners of these grades are exposed to classical music in 3 different moments. So 3 times a year, first a chamber music group goes to their school and gives them a session, a presentation of about 50 minutes, where the musicians speak about themselves, introduce themselves, speak about their instruments, show the instrument, demonstrate everything the instrument can do, how to take it apart, if it takes apart, or what it's made of, the wood, the strings, the horsehair on the bow, etc., etc. And then, of course, play some music for the children and answer questions, allow the children to come and touch the instruments, try them, and have some actual physical interaction. The week after the children have had this session with the chamber music group, a monitor or coach comes to their school to prepare them in a session for an actual visit to a symphony concert. So these coaches are advanced music education students or music educators already formed, and they have a session with the children in which they tell them about the music that they'll hear in the concert and listen to it with them, and also through a range of activities familiarize the children with this music. So through all kinds of games and singing, rhythmic exercises, etc., they prepare the children for what they will be hearing when they come to the symphony concert. They also prepare them for what the actual experience is like when they arrive at the hall, that when you go to a concert you have a ticket, you have a program, you have to sit in your seat, you can't jump over the rows, you have to be silent and applaud at the end, and all these kind of things. So then finally the children come to a symphony concert that is prepared especially for them. It happens during their school hours, so they're transported in buses to our auditorium, and there we have a concert setting just as if it were an evening concert for a paying audience. The children each have a ticket, they each get a program, they're brought to their seats by ushers, and then they hear a concert of more or less 1 hour. And this concert is always presented by a member of the orchestra. I often do these presentations. I love doing them. I love speaking to the kids. And it's really fun because many of the kids recognize me or recognize my colleagues from having been at their school a week before, or 2 weeks before usually. And so unlike a serious evening concert, we can wave to them, and we can sometimes also interact a bit at the end of the concert. And the concert is a normal concert. We don't play abridged versions. Maybe we don't play full symphonies, but we play short pieces. The first concert of its kind was a concert with the Saint-Saëns Carnival of the Animals. There was the Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf, so more, let's say, narrative concerts. But in the meantime we've progressed, and it's so interesting to see how the children who started with us 2 or 3 years ago, after having come to 6 concerts at the end of their second year in the program, how different they are from the beginning. Whereas in the first concert we had quite a few disciplinary problems, there was noise, there was chatting, there was some jumping around. By the end of the second year, the children were sitting in their seats. They were not well behaved because they had to be, but they were truly listening to the music. And building audiences for the future, I think, is really vitally important. I think we really need to invest in not only getting as many children as possible to learn instruments, that's one thing, but also to get as many children as possible to have classical music on their radar, to know that it exists, to see it as a normal thing, and not to close themselves to it, because of course we know that there are many misconceptions about classical music, that it's boring, that it's complicated, that it's difficult to understand, that it's only for certain kinds of people, and these misconceptions need to be deconstructed.
So we set about doing that. So here's some footage from one of our sessions. This session took place in the icy cold February of 2019. Myself and my colleague Pedro went to a school in Benfica, which is a neighborhood in Lisbon known for the very famous football club Benfica. And it's also very close to the Lisbon Zoo. So we decided to create a little story about 2 elephants that escaped from the zoo. Then they go all around the city of Lisbon having adventures in the different concert venues, concert hall, opera house, church, and so on. So here's an excerpt for you. in our story of the two elephants, we used music by Arne Egilson, Mozart, Bizet, Bois Mortier, and of course Saint-Saëns. What would we do without his famous elephant from the Carnival of the Animals? The highlight of the session would be at the end, when we would bring out the small bass and ask for a volunteer. This learner was already having violin lessons, but she was absolutely excited to try the bass. And of course, all her classmates then also wanted to have a turn. As this project has grown and developed, I think more and more about what I really want to impart to the children. What is the message that I want them to get? Ideally, they are in the program for 2 years, so they get a total of 6 sessions with a chamber music group, with a monitor, and then a live concert. So when I have the opportunity to interact with them and speak with them, I try to point out and I try to make them see what is special about an orchestra, why an orchestra as a group, as an entity, as a thing, is something really special. I try to point out to them that they're seeing teamwork at its finest, that they're seeing everyone coming together, cooperating fully, also putting aside differences, personal differences, and truly coming together with a full effort by everybody. And also a very important factor is that every single musician in the orchestra is important. You could even argue equally important for the final result. And everyone needs to put aside their ego and play together and communicate with each other and work together to achieve beautiful music. I'm amazed again and again by how perceptive children are. They notice the smallest things, the things that you don't expect, and then they ask questions, and if you're not prepared for them, that can catch you off guard. But I've learned to really appreciate those moments, because when you meet the child's curiosity and open up about whatever thing it is, if it's simply a technical thing about the instrument, or if it's something about your life as a musician, then you have to just go with it, and then sometimes interesting conversations develop. So this year, of course, with COVID-19, we had to suspend the project, but we're working on being able to go back hopefully next month or in November and carry on our work. And I think what I have taken away so far is that there's a huge difference between someone who knows nothing and someone who knows a little something about classical music. So the appreciation grows so much when there's just a little bit of background knowledge. And not only background knowledge on a technical level, but also the emotional level. And that's why I hope to continue this work and hopefully also collaborate with others who are doing this sort of work in different places in the world. And so it's been great chatting to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Thank you for watching and see you soon. Bye.